Well, hello everybody. Welcome to Gregg's Vintage Workshop. Today I am working on my Knight KG660 battery eliminator. And when I say I'm working on it, I got this about a year and a half, 2 years ago, and it still worked. Albeit not great, but it still worked. But what I'm doing today is I am converting it to an AC Variac based on a design that Ron C. did a video on a few weeks ago. Ron C. down in Florida. If you guys haven't checked out Ron C., go to his YouTube site. He's very insightful, has very good videos. And I told him I was going to copy his design because I just think that I've used this like twice in almost 2 years in its state that it was in, and I just think it would be more useful to have my dim bulb tester and my Variac all in one housing. And I just liked what he did. I asked him if he would have a problem if I emulated his design, and he said absolutely not. As a matter of fact, Ron was kind enough to even print me some of the decals that I will use on this. So what I've already done prior to the start of this video is I've already stripped out my components, and I did save all the components because what I probably will do is relocate them, possibly and maybe even in the AC Variac housing. When I get this finished, I might just move over to that and work on that some. So anyway, I have pretty much got most of the components that I need to do the conversion. I'm still waiting on my panel meter, the 0 to 3 amp panel meter. Should be here later this week, but that doesn't prevent me from going ahead and getting started on the rest of this. So that's the plan. And let me get some of my stuff in here and we'll get started. So the first part of what I've got to do is get the AC Variac in a form in which I can put it into that other housing. Now, when I first started this project, I was going to use my AC Variac that you guys have seen a lot that sits over. In fact, I think you can see it in this video here a little bit right here, and my meters that are above it, but that physically was too large. So I went on eBay and I bought a cheap smaller Variac. It still does what I need it to do. It goes to 150 volts and 5 amps, which everything that I work on is considerably less than that as far as amp output. So I picked this up fairly cheap on eBay, brand new. It was, I think, $36. And the other one that I have actually is also cheap Chinese, but it seems to work fine. So I think that for what I paid for this, to just tear it apart and use it for this project will be fine. So go ahead and take this thing out of the plastic. So again, it's just a cheap Chinese Variac. It has a power switch, it has an outlet, which I'll probably utilize that outlet. We're going to give it a shot anyway. I don't know until I get this apart what we'll do as far as that. But I'm going to go ahead and disassemble this thing so that I can use it in the other housing. So let's go ahead and take some of that apart. I know, nothing like buying something brand new just to tear it apart, right? I like copying stuff sometimes when I think it's a great idea. And I think Ron's idea was a really fabulous idea. Right now, if you guys have watched me when I use my other Variac, when I'm bringing the old radios I've restored up, I've got the dim bulb tester mounted up on the wall. I've got my amp and voltmeter on a top shelf. I've got the Variac on the middle or bottom shelf, and I'm sitting there trying to adjust the Variac while I'm working on the things, and it's just kind of dumb. So I think having it all in one unit makes a lot more sense. So that is going to be what the plan is going to be. I like what Ron did, and they say imitation's the best form of flattery. So I'm imitating Ron. Alright, so it looks like they have the outlet epoxied in here. So I may or may not reuse that outlet. We'll see. I'll determine which seems to be the best way to go. Alright, so let's look at the knob. We'll get that off. Okay, we've got our 3 little screws there. I wish China didn't have to put made in China on all of their stuff. Not like I'm trying to hide that fact, but still. Going into an old night case made in the USA. I must have a nut on the bottom side of that. Okay. And there it is. Actually, those didn't have nuts on them, but it sure didn't want to come up, did it? Alright, so let's see how they've got this mounted in there. It's like a big nut on the bottom. I'm going to go ahead and cut these leads so I can get this cover out of the way. Alright, so I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to set this down into the case here and just see how things look from a height standpoint. It actually looks good. I'm sticking out above the surface, and I've got good clearance below the plate. I can center that up. I've got plenty of room for the knob to go back on there. I think that's going to work well. Alright, so what I need to do is run those screws up from the back side of this housing here. Drill those out and run the screws back up to it to hold it in there like that. So let me get that done and I'll be right back. Okay, so we're back. I was going to show you where I'm at right at the moment. So as you can see, I've got my unit somewhat cleaned up. I took and rubbed off the night portion here of the 660. I left the night insignia, and I've got the decal the partial decal that Ron C made me that I'm going to put down there. And I decided to have a outlet plug, single outlet plug that will be the Variac output, and I decided to have a dedicated dim bulb socket instead of going with the 110 socket with the adapter. That way it's dedicated dedicated to it. So I got this on there. It came with the meter. I sanded off the made in China, and I think I'm going to sand off everything but the actual numbers. And so it's uniform, because you can see it's shiny, but you can see where I stopped. So I think I'm going to take that and we'll do that a little bit better. But I've got the Variac in there, and it was a chore getting it in there. I'm not going to lie to you about that. It was a chore. More difficult than I thought it would be, because I screwed it up. There's 3 screws that hold the feet on the bottom. These are the feet here, for example. So there's 3 feet on the bottom, and I didn't really think much about it. So I decided that I would use the same location to mount the Variac, using those 3 screws. What I didn't realize was that with the feet off, that those particular screws went deep enough and in far enough that I put one in and realized I had a problem, and when I pulled it out and took this on apart, realized that I had severed 2 of the winding wires. So I had to go back and fix the winding wires. That's all done. And then I drilled new holes farther out on the parameter and went with through bolts this way, which from the back, now you'll see the mounting hardware. I mean, they stick out a little bit, but they don't look bad. I'm fine with that. It's not like you're going to be seeing the back of it anyway. I may put some black hardware on it just because I can, or I might not even worry about it. But anyway, it's in there, and it's in there good. So other than the mishap regarding me severing the winding wires with the screw, that's in there. So that's where I'm at, and got this all on there. It's centered on there. You see we're centered over the hole, and the reason that goes around there is because in order to see the numbers properly on that dial plate, I had to shift it down slightly. So I want to be able to put it back in the same location. It covers these holes, so those won't be seen. I'll show you that again. So it's equal distance around there. So that's where that's going to go. And like I said, I'm going to take the variable voltage regulator input output stuff off there. It's not necessary. So that's that. So now I thought that I had a double pull, double throw switch, and I used it on something, but I don't know what I used it on apparently. So I'm going to have to locate it or order me a new one for up here. I've got some new slide switches for AC for here. I've got indicator bulbs for here, and I got to cut this hole here for the outlet. I'm actually going to use the outlet that came on the Variac. So here it is. So I think I'll just mount this in right here, and it's going to cover the word negative. I'm not going to worry about the ground, although if I put it like this, the ground kind of makes sense anyway. And I guess it kind of makes sense here too, because if I put it on there like that, it'll be the negative side. Anyway, but that's going to go there, and I will come back when I got a little bit more together on it. I'm not showing you the whole process because Ron already showed you his. I'm not trying to too much copy Ron's video. I'm just showing you mine as it goes together. So that's where I'm at right now. We'll come back in a little bit. Alright, so we're back. It's coming together. Got the outlet in. Got my indicator light in there and there. Got my switches, new switches for this. The new switches use threaded screws, which I don't have to fit, so I'm going to drill the new switches out so that I can use the original hardware. Keep it looking more original that way anyway. I've got the voltmeter, still waiting on my amp meter. Still got to epoxy this hole a little bit right here, but it's coming together. And I'm going to use two-sided tape on the bezel here, so that'll be one of the last things I do. I don't want it to get damaged, but yeah, it's coming. Well, alright everybody. So I pretty much got the everything in place where it's going to be. I haven't wired it yet, but this is what it's going to look like. And I don't have my decals on yet, but that'll be the next step. After I get it wired, I'll put the decals on, and then I'll probably clear coat, mask off the various things here and clear coat the thing, just so I have clear coat over the decals. But I'm pretty happy with this so far. So I reused the original fuse holder in it. And that's about it. That's about the only thing original is the fuse holder. So anyway, so this is the on-off switch for the whole unit. This is the one that switches it from line voltage to variac, and this is the bypass switch for the dim bulb. That's the indicator light for this one. That's the indicator light for the variac, and that's the indicator light for the dim bulb. So that's what we got. Got the 3 amp meter and 150 volt. We can get the light glare out of it so you can see it. 150 volt voltmeter. So that's how it's coming along. Just thought I'd show you that. I'm going to be wiring it up here in a little bit, and then we'll get the decals on it. So I decided not to go ahead and take that off. Decided to leave it on there. But depending upon how the light hits it, be nice if those were horizontal, but that's not the way I have it situated in there. So such is life. That's it for now. Well, welcome back everybody. So I've been working at getting the wiring all done. The wiring is all done. So you can kind of take a look at the way I did this. This amp meter here. This is the voltmeter here. This is the plug down here. Voltmeter going across the plug. Got our amp meter feeding off of this is the line / variac switch. So we can either run line voltage or the variac. And down here we have a bypass switch for the dim bulb. And here's the main power switch. And the various lights. Now you might wonder, this looks like this is all going to hit. It does look like it, but it's not going to. I kept everything really close to the surface. In fact, most of this is laying on the surface. And this portion here is actually recessed quite a bit before it gets to the face, about like that. So I've got like that much space. So everything should clear. I've picked it up and bent it in there. And I think it's going to be fine. So anyway, that's all wired up and ready to try out. So I think the next thing I bring up, I'll have the I'll button her back up, and then I'll bring you back with it buttoned up, and we'll try it out. Okay, everybody. So here is the final wiring for my AC Variac dim bulb tester. Got it all completed here. I added a couple of different wires in here. Down in this vicinity here, I also created this plastic bushing that goes in there to help support the shaft. It actually, when it's energized, moves a little bit, so it needed to have the bushing. So I put the bushing in there. We're going to get it buttoned up here in a second. Alright folks, so this is the final product here. This is my Night AC Variac, courtesy of design by Ron C. out of Florida. Also courtesy of Ron C. He printed me my decals, the various decals. That's the original insignia there, but that's the decal printed. Although the labels are the decals printed. I'm real happy with the way it turned out. Put a little light on it. Okay, so I've got it plugged into my BK Precision 1604A isolation transformer, and plug the isolation transformer in, so we should have power. So the switch here is the on-off for the thing, and right now I've got the dim bulb tester on, therefore the light is on there. A switch up here takes us from line voltage, which is what we're showing right here, AC line active, over to the Variac active, which is this light bulb here. If I turn the dim bulb tester into bypass, that light goes out. Okay, right now the Variac's active. We'll see our voltage goes up. I checked it with my meter a little bit earlier and it's pretty accurate. Take it up to 120. It's about 105, 115. It's about 120 right there. Okay. Now I've got it in dim bulb right now. I'm going to put a load on the dim bulb using my saber saw here. You see the dim bulb works. Okay. That dim bulb's going to work when I'm pulling the trigger on my saber saw here, as well as the ammeter moving. I take it out of dim bulb, put it on bypass. See, we're going pretty good. So, very much a success. I'm very happy with this. This is going to be a very handy addition to my shop. My old Knight 660 6 and 12 volt power supply, like I said, I used it maybe twice in the last 2 years. It's just sitting on a shelf. So now this is going to be a regular part. I'm going to build a shelf up on my workbench here that's going to hold both the isolation transformer and this Knight AC Variac, and it's going to have a permanent home here. So that will conclude this video, and all of you that are watching, if you're not a subscriber, I hope that you would hit the like button and subscribe. If you're already a subscriber, thank you for watching my videos. We'll have something new coming up in a week or two. I haven't decided yet what it's going to be, but we will do something. So from Gregg at Gregg's Vintage Workshop, thank you for watching.